When tech mogul Derek Hamilton saw his former fiancée Aria Chen walk onto the stage at Silicon Valley's most prestigious tech summit, his champagne glass slipped from his trembling fingers. Beside her stood three identical boys who bore an unmistakable resemblance to him, and next to them was Robert Chen, her former boss and the venture capitalist Derek had spent years trying to impress. What Derek didn't know was that Aria was about to announce something that would destroy everything he'd built and leave him begging for scraps from the empire she'd created from the ashes of his betrayal. Before we dive into this incredible story of transformation, betrayal, and ultimate justice, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you're ready for this emotional roller coaster. Tomorrow, I have another mind-blowing story that will absolutely shock you, and I don't want you to miss it. Now let's get into Aria's journey. San Francisco, 2019. Aria Chen, 29, stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of Hamilton Tech's executive conference room, watching the city pulse with digital ambition below. As Chief Technology Officer of Hamilton Tech, Aria commanded respect in a world dominated by men who looked nothing like her. Her Stanford computer science PhD and revolutionary work in AI had earned her a reputation as one of the most brilliant minds in Silicon Valley. Derek Hamilton was everything Silicon Valley worshipped. A Harvard MBA with piercing blue eyes, a trust fund that had seeded his first startup, and the kind of effortless charm that opened doors at Sand Hill Road's most exclusive venture capital firms. At 32, he'd already sold 2 companies and was building Hamilton Tech into what TechCrunch called the next unicorn. Their love story had been the stuff of Silicon Valley fairy tales. The tech press couldn't get enough of them, the golden couple that represented everything the industry aspired to be. That evening, they walked hand in hand through the Mission District, stopping at their favorite dim sum restaurant. The diamond engagement ring Derek had given her 6 months earlier caught the light as Aria reached for her tea. "I have news," she said, her voice carrying a tremor of excitement and nervousness. Derek looked up from his phone. "Good news, I hope." "I'm pregnant," Aria said, watching his face carefully. "Actually, it's triplets." Derek's chopsticks clattered to his plate. For a moment, his carefully constructed composure cracked, revealing something Aria couldn't quite identify. "Fear? Anger? Triplets," he repeated slowly. "I know it's unexpected," Aria rushed to explain. "But Derek, imagine what incredible children we'll have." "Aria." Derek's voice had gone cold, professional. "We need to think about this rationally." "What's to think about? We're engaged. We love each other. The company is at a critical juncture. We're 3 months away from our Series C funding round. I can't have distractions." Aria felt ice forming in her stomach. Distractions? Our children would be distractions? Derek pulled out his phone and began typing. "You're brilliant, Aria. You could start your own company, maybe in Portland or Austin, somewhere with a lower cost of living, more family-friendly." Derek's tone was maddeningly reasonable. "I'd provide financial support, of course." The weight of his words settled over her like fog. He wasn't talking about their future together. He was talking about her future elsewhere. "You want me to leave?" "I want what's best for everyone involved." Derek signaled for the check. "The tech world isn't ready for this kind of complexity. My investors expect a certain image, a certain focus." That night, in the Nob Hill penthouse they shared, Aria found Derek in the kitchen at 3 a.m., laptop open, surrounded by legal documents. "You're really doing this," she said. "I'm protecting what we've built," Derek replied without looking up. "The board is concerned about stability. My primary investor, Robert Chen from Pinnacle Ventures, has already expressed reservations about management continuity." The irony wasn't lost on Aria. Robert Chen, her former boss from her Stanford days, the venture capitalist who'd mentored her, was now being used as justification for her exile. "Robert Chen gave me my first job in tech," Aria said quietly. "He believed in me when no one else would." "Which is exactly why this is so complicated," Derek snapped. "Do you know how it looks? My CTO, pregnant with triplets, connected to my primary investor? The optics are a nightmare." The next morning, Derek was gone before she woke. In his place was an envelope containing a check for $2 million, legal documents terminating her employment, and a single note. For your fresh start. Please be gone by evening. Arya stared at the check, at the casual dismissal of 5 years of her life, 3 brilliant children growing inside her, and a love she'd thought was unbreakable. She tore up the check. 3 weeks after Derek's ultimatum, Arya found herself in a studio apartment in Oakland, her bank account dwindling and her belly beginning to show. The tech world was small, and news traveled at fiber optic speed. Most opportunities evaporated when Arya mentioned her pregnancy. At her 6-month checkup, Dr. Martinez looked concerned. These blood pressure numbers are elevated. Are you experiencing unusual stress? Arya almost laughed. She was broke, blacklisted, and carrying 3 babies whose father had declared them inconvenient complications. That night, sitting on her futon and eating ramen noodles, Arya made a decision that would change everything. She opened her laptop and began typing, not a job application, but code. The idea had been percolating since her Stanford days, an AI platform that could democratize machine learning for small businesses. She called it Neural Bridge. Working 18-hour days despite her doctor's orders, Arya built the initial prototype. Neural Bridge could take a small business and implement AI solutions that previously required teams of data scientists and millions in infrastructure investment. Arya's water broke during a Zoom call with a potential client. 6 hours later, at Oakland's Alta Bates Hospital, she held 3 miracles: James, Lucas, and Ryan Chen. Each weighed just over 4 pounds, but their faces unmistakably resembled the man who'd chosen not to know them. The NICU bills were staggering, $127,000 by the time the boys came home. That night, in her studio apartment with 3 bassinets crammed into the space, Arya made another decision that would reshape her destiny. She called Robert Chen. Robert, it's Arya Chen. Arya, I've been wondering how you've been. Derek was vague about your departure. For the next 20 minutes, Arya told him everything. Derek's abandonment, the pregnancy, the blacklisting, and most importantly, the AI platform she'd built from desperation and determination. Send me everything, Robert finally said. Technical documentation, business plan, prototype demo. 3 days later, Robert arrived at Arya's apartment with his technical team. The technology spoke for itself. This is extraordinary, murmured Dr. Sarah Kim, Pinnacle's lead analyst. This could be a game changer. Robert watched Arya bounce Ryan while explaining the platform's capabilities. I'm prepared to offer $10 million for 25% equity. 6 months later, Arya stood in the bright, spacious offices of Neural Bridge in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The company had grown to 12 employees, processing AI solutions for over 300 small businesses. The triplets, now crawling and babbling, thrived in an environment where their mother's brilliance was celebrated. In 18 months, she'd built something worth more than Derek's entire company. The invitation to deliver the keynote at MIT's Innovation Summit arrived on embossed paper. Arya stared at it in her Cambridge office, watching 18-month-old James, Lucas, and Ryan play with educational tablets. You have to do it, said Jennifer Walsh, Neural Bridge's head of marketing. MIT's Innovation Summit is broadcast globally. What if he's there? Arya asked quietly. Then he gets to watch you shine, Robert said, entering with his usual purposeful stride. Over the months, their professional relationship had deepened into something more, not romantic, but a partnership built on mutual respect and shared commitment to the boys. The summit attracted tech's elite. As Arya walked through the reception, she caught fragments of conversations about valuations and disruptions. Then she saw him. Derek Hamilton stood near the bar, surrounded by admirers. He looked exactly as she remembered, but there was tension around his eyes that suggested challenges he couldn't charm his way out of. As if sensing her gaze, Derek turned. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Arya saw recognition flash across his features, followed quickly by something that might have been panic. Ladies and gentlemen, the master of ceremonies announced, please welcome the founder and CEO of Neural Bridge, Dr. Arya Chen. Arya walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. As her vision adjusted, she found Derek in the 3rd row, his face pale, his champagne glass trembling. 2 years ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly. I was told that brilliant women with complicated lives were distractions from the serious business of building the future. Tonight, I want to tell you about the future that brilliant, complicated women can build when given the chance. For 30 minutes, Arya commanded the auditorium. She spoke about neural bridges technology, but more importantly, about democratizing innovation for small businesses that had been overlooked by tech giants. But tonight isn't just about technology, she continued, clicking to a photo of her sons at her office. It's about what happens when we expand our definition of who belongs in this industry. 18 months ago, I was told that these 3 boys represented a complication incompatible with serious business. Tonight, they're minority shareholders in a company valued at $200 million. Derek's champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor. The cameras caught his pale, stricken face, and the tech press began typing furiously. James, Lucas, and Ryan Chen, Arya continued steadily. They've attended more board meetings than most executives. They're fluent in 3 languages, and they've taught me that the greatest innovations come not from avoiding complexity, but from embracing it. The standing ovation was immediate and thunderous. Through the crowd, she caught sight of Derek pushing toward the exit, but Robert intercepted him near the doors. "Derek Hamilton," Robert said, his voice carrying authority. "Leaving so soon?" "Robert, I didn't know you were involved. With the most promising AI company to emerge in years?" "Yes, Pinnacle Ventures is the primary investor. Dr. Chen is exactly the kind of visionary leader we look for." "Those children," Derek began, "are brilliant, well-loved, and have a father who chose them from day one," Robert said firmly. "You made your choice 2 years ago, Derek. Don't pretend you have regrets now." Later that evening, Derek approached Arya on the roof deck. "Could we talk?" She turned to face the man who'd shaped so much of her story. "Hello, Derek. I saw your presentation. You've built something incredible." "Thank you. Those boys, they're mine, aren't they? Biologically? Yes. In every way that matters? Number they have a father, a man who chose them, who shows up for them, who sees them as blessings rather than complications." "Arya, I made a mistake, Derek." Arya's voice was gentle but final. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. You chose your image over our family." "But I want to—" "What you want stopped mattering the moment you told me to disappear," Arya said. "I'm not angry anymore, Derek. I'm grateful. You forced me to discover what I was capable of when I stopped limiting myself to your vision of who I should be." 6 months after MIT, Neural Bridge had grown exponentially. Arya stood in their new Boston headquarters, a gleaming space overlooking the harbor. The company now served 800 small businesses and was valued at $800 million. "We have an acquisition offer," announced CFO Margaret Kim. "Microsoft. They're offering $1.2 billion. "No," Arya said simply. "I didn't build this to become a footnote in someone else's empire." What Arya didn't know was that Derek had spent months orchestrating a campaign to undermine everything she'd built. Anonymous complaints about data privacy, allegations of anti-competitive behavior. Each charge was eventually dismissed, but not before generating damaging headlines. The attack was sophisticated enough to cause real damage, subtle enough to maintain plausible deniability. Derek's fingerprints were all over the campaign. Then, Arya received an email from an unknown source containing recorded phone calls between Derek and various tech journalists. "We need to slow down the narrative around Neural Bridge." Derek's voice was unmistakable. Arya Chen got lucky with timing, but if people start looking closely at her background, her personal situation, there are vulnerabilities there. The evidence was overwhelming. Derek hadn't just tried to destroy her business. He'd attempted to systematically dismantle everything she'd built. Arya forwarded the materials to her legal team, then made a decision that would end Derek's campaign permanently. The Global Tech Summit in San Francisco was Silicon Valley's biggest annual gathering. Arya hadn't planned to attend until she learned that Derek would be delivering the opening keynote on the future of ethical AI development. The irony was too perfect to ignore. Derek's presentation was polished but routine. What the audience didn't know was that Hamilton Tech was struggling, its valuation stagnating while competitors like Neuralbridge redefined entire sectors. On the summit's final day, Arya walked onto the main stage to deliver her keynote. The auditorium was packed, with Derek in the front row looking increasingly uncomfortable. 3 years ago, she began, I was told that brilliant women with complicated lives were incompatible with serious technology development. Tonight, I want to share what I've learned about building technology that serves everyone. For 30 minutes, Arya painted a vision of AI that extended beyond enterprise solutions. She spoke about small businesses in overlooked communities, about democratizing tools that had previously required massive resources. But I also want to address something more personal, she continued, clicking to a graph showing Neuralbridge's growth alongside Hamilton Tech's stagnation. When you dismiss talented people because of their personal circumstances, you don't just hurt individuals. You limit your own potential for innovation. Derek's face had gone pale. Around him, audience members were connecting the obvious implications. The standing ovation was sustained. As the formal Q&A ended, Derek pushed toward the exit, but Robert intercepted him again. The recordings, Derek, Robert said quietly. The phone calls with journalists, the payments to consultants. We have everything. You can't prove? We can prove everything, Robert replied calmly. The question is whether you want this handled privately or in federal court with full media coverage. Derek glanced back at the stage where Arya was surrounded by admirers. What do you want? I want you to understand that your choices have consequences, Robert said. You chose to abandon a brilliant woman and 3 innocent children. You chose to attack their success rather than accept your failure. If this story inspired you and reminded you that sometimes our greatest challenges become our greatest victories, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that rejection can become rocket fuel. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from around the world, and let me know about a time when someone's doubt motivated you to prove them wrong. Don't forget to subscribe with notifications on because I have another incredible story coming tomorrow that will absolutely blow your mind. 1 year later, Arya stood in the nursery of her Beacon Hill mansion, watching 3-year-old James, Lucas, and Ryan play with educational robots. Neuralbridge now served over 10,000 small businesses worldwide, employed 400 people, and was valued at $2.8 billion. Mama, look, Ryan called out, showing her a robot he'd programmed. I made it draw our family. The sketch showed 4 figures, Arya, Robert, and the 3 boys, standing under a bright yellow sun. No sad man, no missing father, just the family they'd chosen and built together. It's perfect, sweetheart, Arya said, hugging him. Robert appeared in the doorway. Over the past year, their partnership had evolved into something deeper, a mature love built on shared values and genuine affection for the family they'd created. How was the MIT meeting? Arya asked. They want to establish the Chen Institute for Democratic AI, Robert replied. Full research center dedicated to developing AI solutions for underserved communities. There's more, Robert continued, showing her a news alert. Derek's filed for bankruptcy. Hamilton Tech is being liquidated. Arya read the article with mixed emotions. Derek's company had never recovered from the competitive pressure Neuralbridge had created. That evening, her phone buzzed with a message. Arya, it's Derek. Could we meet? I need to apologize properly. She stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. Some conversations belonged to the past, and some apologies came too late to matter. Instead, she opened her laptop and began working on a speech for Stanford's commencement address. The university that had launched her career had asked her to speak about innovation, perseverance, and building technology that serves humanity. 6 months later, Arya stood on Stanford's stage, delivering her commencement address to 1,200 graduating students. In the audience, she could see Robert and the boys in the front row, her mother beaming with pride. 5 years ago, she began, I learned that rejection can be redirection, that obstacles can become opportunities, and that the people who doubt you often reveal more about their limitations than yours. She paused, looking at the sea of young faces. You'll face moments when others try to convince you that you don't belong, that your ideas aren't valuable, that your background disqualifies you from greatness. In those moments, remember that innovation has never come from those who fit existing molds. It comes from those brave enough to break them. After the ceremony, Arya found herself standing outside the computer science building where she'd first learned to code, where she'd met Derek, where she'd begun the journey that led to this moment. "Any regrets?" Robert asked, joining her with the boys. "None," Arya replied, watching James teach Lucas how to skip. "Derek's rejection taught me that other people's limitations don't have to become my own. His doubt became my determination. His failure to see my worth became the foundation of everything I've built." As the sun set over Stanford campus, Arya realized that the scared, pregnant woman who'd left San Francisco 5 years ago no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely more powerful, not because she'd proven Derek wrong, but because she'd proven herself right. The boys ran over, demanding to be lifted. As she hoisted Ryan onto her shoulders while Robert picked up James and Lucas, Arya felt a profound sense of completion. She'd built more than a company, or accumulated more than wealth. She'd created a legacy, a family built on love, a business founded on service, and a future where her sons would know that their worth wasn't determined by others' approval. "Mama," Ryan said from his perch, "are we going home now?" "Yes, sweetheart," Arya replied, looking one last time at the campus where her journey had begun. "We're going home." And as they walked toward their car, Arya understood that home wasn't a place but a feeling, the security of being loved completely, the joy of building something meaningful, and the peace that comes from knowing that the best chapters of your story are always the ones you write yourself. Thank you for joining Arya on this incredible journey from abandoned and pregnant to tech billionaire and loving mother. If you believe that our greatest challenges can become our greatest triumphs, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and share this story with someone who needs to remember that rejection is often redirection in disguise. Comment below and tell me about a time when someone's doubt motivated you to prove them spectacularly wrong. Until next time, remember that your worth isn't determined by who accepts you. It's determined by what you build when you accept yourself. Stay strong, stay brilliant, and keep building your empire.